Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. I was reading a recent article from the Wall Street Journal, which I'll get into here in a moment, but it got me thinking, is this OECD thing just basically Biden's League of Nations? I mean, this whole Biden administration was just, quite honestly, one of the most surreal, terrifying, and annoying things I think I've ever been through in terms of watching American politics. Most notably, we now look back on it, you have to seriously question whether or not he was legitimately elected, whatever. He went through the legal process whereby elections are certified, so okay, he was the legitimate president of the United States, fine. But I love this notion, especially of Americans sometimes, are very naive in clutching their pearls as if the founding fathers were unaware of the notion of rigged elections. But you know, we have a constitutional framework, we followed it, now we've got Trump back. And frankly, I would have kind of preferred just Trump end off his second term and we'd be done with Trump now and could move on. But okay, here we are. I mean, and frankly, he's learned some lessons. I kind of actually like the new Trump in certain ways. That said, the question posed by this is this OECD thing, which Trump has immediately turned around upon coming into office. Frankly, I think looking back on this, this was sort of also a Janet Yellen initiative, which I have serious qualms about her capacity. I wouldn't trust that woman to run an apple cart, let alone the U.S. Treasury, which she did for 4 years, and prior to that was the Fed chairman, which, by the way, also brings up a massive amount of questions as to how does that work. But leaving that aside, this whole global minimum tax is being thrown out, as I've discussed in other videos. But the point of this video is I'm kind of asking myself, is this OECD kind of Joe Biden's League of Nations in a way? You know, the way that Woodrow Wilson tried to get America in the League of Nations, it didn't work and it ultimately sort of fell apart. Is this what's going on with this situation for OECD? Thought of making this video after reading a recent article from the Wall Street Journal. WSJ.com article is titled "The End of the Global Tax Affair." Quoting directly, former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen signed this pact in 2021. Dropping years of bipartisan opposition from U.S. administrations. That is really important to point out, that there is bipartisan division on this issue and has been for a long time. The first thing you need to understand, this whole global minimum tax thing was contrived. It was cut out of whole cloth. It's not real. It's not based on any fundamental rank and file call for a global minimum tax. Again, it's globalist, supranational nonsense whereby they want to just extract wealth from everybody around the world. It's neo-colonialist. It's a whole bunch of things. It's terrible. You know, that said, it's worth noting that, again, this did not have a claim at any level legislatively. Okay, they've pushed this as if it's a foregone conclusion. But again, like here in Thailand, where they're trying to push it as a foregone conclusion just because Thailand signed on to look into it, which, as they discuss, as I believe the deputy finance minister said himself, it would take years to put in and promulgate new laws. Now that the U.S. is pulling out, I think Thailand has to think deeply. If not, it's a foregone conclusion that Thailand pulls out, because what's the point of this thing if the U.S. isn't in it, arguably the largest economy in the bloc? If they're not involved, then who cares? Why be involved in it? Just trade with everybody and cooperate with everybody on an ad hoc basis. Why do we need this OECD? That said, quoting further, Team Biden thought the ploy might make it easier to sell Congress on corporate tax increases at home. Yeah, because Congress loves corporate tax increases. Again, the levels of incompetence, honestly, sort of fantasy thinking, just sort of magical thinking that went into this whole initiative, it's absurd. And it's frankly annoying that this level of idiocy they've attempted to pass it off as good law, when in reality, at best, it's maybe the wispy color of law, but it's not even that, because they haven't passed anything. They didn't pass anything in America. They haven't changed any of the laws in Thailand. They just talk about, it's globalist media nonsense. It's the way they always do stuff. They claim, COVID was the prime example. They would take things out of context, or they would put their own interpretation on something and then just say that's the foregone conclusion to the situation, and we're all supposed to deal with it. When the reality is, no new laws have been made. And until there's a codified law under Thai law, I don't see where anybody has to cooperate with this. And in America, they've already thrown it out. The president said by executive order, I'm not doing any of this. So good. We shouldn't be involved in anything. Legislatures haven't gotten involved with this, so there's no legitimate legal reason to do this. So again, I'm hoping this just falls by the wayside and we don't talk about it a month and a half from now. Quoting further, other governments are implementing the deal. Other governments are implementing the deal? I mean, again, no, they're in the process of reviewing it. And again, the media tries to portray this as something it's really not, or that there's momentum behind this that there really isn't. Thailand's looking at it. Okay, that's just one example. Not every country even wants to do this. And again, with the US pulling out, as they get into in that article, and I urge those who are watching this video, go check that out in detail. But again, if you read through that, some folks are looking into it. Other places don't even want to do it. And the US has pulled out. Again, the momentum behind this is gone, to my mind. Quoting further, other governments are implementing the deal, but Congress never supported the necessary changes to US tax law. Hear that now. All those folks who are worried about this, especially Americans, especially American expats out here in Thailand, Congress never supported the necessary changes to US tax law, and now the president is directly confronting and reversing OECD. So Americans, stop worrying about this stuff. Quoting further, and some lawmakers threaten retaliation against foreign capitals imposing these taxes on US firms. So again, like here in Thailand, where we have national treatment under our US-Thai Treaty of Amity, this OECD stuff is nonsense. Trump's pulled this out. Whatever you want to do here in Thailand with respect to, does Thailand want to be a member of OECD? May not. I think they shouldn't. I think it's neocolonial nonsense. I think it's not in Thailand's national interest. I don't think it's good for Thailand. Don't think it's good for the business community of Thailand. Don't think it's good for the economy of Thailand. Don't think it's good for Thailand. If I'm not putting a fine enough point on this, this is terrible for Thailand. They haven't even passed it yet. The US is pulling out. I'm hoping Thailand does too, and I hope this goes down in history of Biden's League of Nations that failed because nobody really wanted it.